3 years after a New York City tycoon claimed me as his own, I made a shocking discovery. My body had somehow fused with an ABO universe. I became the only man on Earth who could get pregnant. Looking at my slightly swollen belly, I faked my death and ran without a second thought. The next time we met, he had a gun pressed to my chin, his obsessive gaze fixed on my son. Going behind my back and having a kid with someone else? Cody spiked a high fever in the middle of the night, and I was frantic. I stood by the side of the road with him in my arms, trying to hail a cab, but it was too late. There were no taxis out. After a long wait, a single car finally appeared on the highway. Desperate, I rushed out into the road to block it. "Hey, watch where you're going." I ran to the driver's side, still holding Cody. "Please, sir. My son has a fever, and I can't get a cab. Please help me." Cody was premature, and his health had always been fragile. A simple cold could knock him out for half a month, let alone a high fever. The driver waved me off impatiently. "Get lost. We're in a hurry." Panicked, I glanced into the back and saw someone else, a man who looked important. I rushed to the back window and knocked. "Please, I'm begging you. I'll pay you. 3 times the fare. 5 times. Maybe it was my sincerity, or maybe they just took pity on me, but they let me in." The back door opened, and I climbed in with Cody. After checking on Cody's condition, I looked up and found myself staring down the barrel of a gun. "James." James tilted his head, his gaze shifting to Cody in my arms. "Weren't you dead? Faked it, huh? Going behind my back and having a kid? You've got some nerve." I never imagined that the car I flagged down at random would be James's. Nor did I ever think I'd see him again in a situation like this. To be honest, I never wanted to see him again at all. Cody, sensing the tension, stirred in my arms. "Daddy?" I quickly lowered my head to check on him, pressing my forehead against his. The heat was terrifying. "James, I'll explain later. Okay? Just take us to the hospital first. Cody's fever is too high. He can't take it." James scoffed. "Then let him die. He can go with you. Or did you think I'd let him live, even if he recovers?" James wasn't joking. I knew he'd do it. Anxiously, I grabbed his hand. "Please, James. It's not what you think. Just help me first, and I'll explain everything, okay?" James glanced at me, then ordered the driver to speed up. "If you try to get out of this car, I promise he won't see tomorrow's sunrise." And just like that, Cody was left at the hospital and I was dragged back by James. Seeing the familiar building again, I felt like I was in a daze. The past felt like it had just happened yesterday. James sat on the sofa, one leg crossed over the other, a lit cigarette in his hand. In the old days, I would have just turned and walked away. James would have taken a drag from his cigarette, grabbed me, and tormented me for it. But now, I could only stand 10 feet away from him, like a stranger, like a servant. "Weren't you going to explain?" I kept my head down and said nothing. "How old is the kid?" 2. With a crash, something ceramic shattered at my feet. James walked toward me, stepping on the shards with a sickening crunch, as if he felt no pain at all. He grabbed my throat. "Mark, should I be impressed? You were with me for 3 years. Then you fake your death to have a child with some other woman? You really were cheating on me, weren't you?" James's grip was so tight I couldn't breathe. Tears streamed from my eyes involuntarily. He kept his hand on my throat but leaned in and licked away a tear. I could hear the soft sound and his words. "Salty. So you are human after all. If you're human, how can you be so heartless?" He suddenly let go, shoving me aside. "Seems I was too good to you before. That's why you had the chance to make a mistake." James wiped his hands as he spoke, as if he had just touched something filthy. "Maybe if I kill him, you'll finally learn your lesson." In a panic, I screamed, "Don't. If you kill him, you'll regret it, too." James laughed as if I'd told him a joke. "I'd love to kill you. Why would I care about killing some bastard child? How could I forget?" This was James, heir to a DC political dynasty, raised with absolute power, from a family whose influence was immense. In this whole city, who didn't know his family? Who didn't know James? I'd love to see what I have to regret. I scrambled to my feet and ran to block his path, completely ignoring the pain from the broken shards on the floor. Cody is my child. I gave birth to him. James roared with laughter, then lunged forward, grabbing my neck and slamming me against the wall. Nice try, Mark. I'd love to see what kind of woman could make you so protective. Didn't you used to value your pride so much? When I was forcing myself on you, when you were crying like a little girl, why didn't you mention you could give birth then? He pressed my face against the wall from behind. His words whispered into my ear, each one more devastating than the last. It wasn't because of the 3 years he'd held me captive. It wasn't because of his attitude now. It was because I really could give birth. I still don't know why, during my 3rd year with him, I suddenly awakened a second gender and became an omega. When I left James 2 years ago, it wasn't because I truly hated him. It was because I found out I was pregnant. By then, our relationship had become more stable. I was still resentful, but I had stopped trying to leave him. He was on a business trip in Europe, and for 2 weeks, I couldn't stop throwing up. I couldn't keep anything down and looked like a wreck. Later, I was having dinner with Chloe when I got sick again, and she dragged me to the hospital for a checkup. That's when I found out I was pregnant. My first reaction to the news was to run. I was a man. I had been under another man for 3 years. Everyone in the city knew James was keeping a man. No one said anything to my face, but behind my back, they called me a rent boy. Those words bothered me at first, but James protected me. Though his family gave me hell, he never let anyone say a bad word about me in public. After a while, the rumors died down and I stopped trying to run. But I was pregnant. I was a man and I was pregnant. When the doctor told me, I broke down, agonizing over whether to keep the child or to run. So I faked an illness and had the housekeeper take me to the hospital. On the way, there was a car accident and I faked my death to escape. Chloe helped me arrange everything. What are you crying for? Didn't you say you gave birth to him? Why are you crying? I hadn't even realized I was crying. I struggled, but I couldn't break free. I mumbled I really did give birth to him. James, furious, laughed again and dragged me upstairs, throwing me onto the bed. As he loomed over me, I felt like a fish pinned to a cutting board, unable to escape. I lay there stiffly as James wrapped his arms around me, holding me tight. Don't tell me you actually think I'm still interested in you. Then he closed his eyes and ignored me. Soon, I could hear his soft, even breathing. After he was sound asleep, I carefully started to get up. But before my feet could touch the floor, in such a hurry to see that woman, are you? James's voice sounded teasing, but it was ice cold, with no trace of sleepiness. He hadn't been asleep at all. He sat up and methodically straightened his clothes. From now on, you don't leave this room without my permission. My head snapped up to meet his gaze. He reached out, grabbed the back of my neck, and pulled me close. Try to run again, and I'll make sure you never see your son again. I grabbed his hand. Take me to the hospital. When we got to the hospital, Cody was already doing much better. His fever had broken, though his little face was still flushed. Chloe was there, sitting right by his side. When she saw me, she rushed over and checked me from top to bottom. Are you okay? I shook my head. She knew all about the years James had kept me. She was my best friend. She knew I was gay. She knew I was pregnant. And she knew everything that had happened between James and me. Chloe believed James was the reason I had suffered so much. If it weren't for him, I wouldn't have gotten pregnant. And I wouldn't have been so lost and alone raising Cody by myself. I wouldn't have become so timid and insecure. As Chloe passed James, she didn't even glance at him, just pulled me over to see Cody. Cody woke up for a bit earlier. He was asking for you. I stroked Cody's still warm cheek, my eyes welling up. As I stood there lost in thought, Cody woke up. Mommy, is Daddy here? Chloe, seeing how hard it was for me to raise Cody alone and worrying that he'd be affected by not having a mother, had offered to let him call her mommy. I was endlessly grateful to her for that. She was my best friend and my family. Chloe took Cody's little hand. Daddy's here, sweetie. See? Right here. I steadied myself, but just as I reached for Cody's hand, James forcefully pulled me out of the room. Ha, so it was her. Back then, I checked the security footage. I saw you had dinner with her, went to the hospital, and then a few days later you died in a car crash. You've got a lot of nerve, bringing that woman right in front of me. I was worried about Cody and in no mood to argue with him. No, that's not it. Just let me see Cody. I chatted with Cody for a while until he got sleepy again. I asked Chloe to watch over him for a few more days, because I knew James wouldn't let me go, especially since he thought I had betrayed him. James didn't take me home. He took me to Elysium. Elysium was a famous club for the city's elite. The people who came here were either rich or powerful, and the parties and prices were staggering. When James led me into the private room, the noisy space fell instantly silent. Holy shit. Well, look at that. Looks like Mr. Astor has finally decided to move on. I kept my head down, silent. The men speaking were James's friends. His closest friend was Hayes, the youngest son of a famous tycoon. The other two were Matt and Connor. They weren't as close to James and were the ones who used to call me a rent boy. Hayes circled me, and James kicked him for it. This is one hell of a look-alike. Hayes was a classic playboy, and his words rarely made sense. But even I had to admit, you'd be hard-pressed to find another guy in the whole city with natural fox eyes like mine. James said nothing. He sat in the middle and I sat beside him. He didn't say a word to me the entire time. He called over girls to drink with him and ordered all kinds of services. He had a great time treating me like I was invisible. It wasn't that I wasn't angry, I just didn't have the right to be. Before, if James came home from a night out smelling too strongly of smoke, I would have coldly kicked him out of bed. Years ago, because we'd gotten off to such a bad start, I was always cold to him, but it wasn't like I didn't have feelings for him. The door to the room opened, and another familiar face walked in. Lindsay, the daughter of the Lynn family. Lindsay saw me and her mouth dropped open in shock. James waved her over, shooing away the random women around him and motioning for her to sit next to him. Lindsay glanced at me before sitting down beside James and starting to flirt with him. I always knew that Lindsay had a crush on James. The very first time we met, she threw a glass of juice on me. Have you no shame? A man seducing him just to climb the social ladder. You're pathetic. They were right about you. You're a rent boy. Her words stung, and a rebellious impulse took over. I grabbed James's shirt and kissed him. In the 2 months I'd been with him, it was the first time I'd ever initiated a kiss outside of the times we fought in bed or the times I was forced to buy passion. James's anger toward Lindsay instantly vanished, and a second after I kissed him, he took control. Lindsay screamed and ran out of the room. The next day, I was summoned to James's family home. 3 years ago, James wasn't the untouchable tycoon he was now. His grandfather hadn't yet relinquished control, and he was just the family's precious young master. Mr. Astor, Sr. brought me to the family home. He was outwardly polite, but every word he spoke was a dagger to the heart. He reminded me of my humble origins, that I was worthless. I know how you and James met. The boys at Elysium are certainly high quality, and our family can certainly afford to keep a pitiful child like you. Lindsay liked James, and both families knew it. If nothing unexpected happened, they were supposed to get engaged, marry, and spend the rest of their lives together. Thinking of this, I truly couldn't stand to sit in Elysium a moment longer. James and Lindsay were laughing happily, and the voices of everyone around them made me feel like a clown. I stood up to leave. A hand grabbed my wrist. Seeing this, Lindsay sneered, "Well, what do you know? Someone with his face acts just like him. Thinks he's all that. Is it entitlement? Or are you just plain rude?" The others chimed in, laughing. This little pet isn't trained well enough. I looked at the hand James had on my wrist. I told you, you don't leave without my permission. It's late. Cody can't sleep if I'm not there. With that, I shook off James's hand and walked out, ignoring his explosive rage and the sound of shattering glass behind me. In the end, James came with me to the hospital to see Cody. Chloe had been with him all day, so I told her to go home. As she left, she shot James a dirty look. Cody asked me who James was. "This is the uncle who helped us. He brought us to the hospital." Cody whispered, Thank you, Uncle. Cody was much better, so we checked out of the hospital. Daddy, aren't we going home? James turned around and asked Cody, don't you like it here? Cody nodded. I like it. The house is so big and pretty. Daddy, are we gonna live here from now on? No, I blurted out at the exact same time James said yes. James and I locked eyes. He said nothing, but I understood the meaning in his gaze. The uncle invited us to stay here. Quick, thank the uncle. Cody happily thanked James and was then led to a guest room by the housekeeper. After Cody was gone, James went upstairs alone. The next day, Cody had to go to school, so I woke up early. When I woke up, James wasn't in bed, and I couldn't find him anywhere in the house. The housekeeper told me he had left on a business trip. I nodded and, after breakfast, was about to take Cody to school when I was stopped at the door. Mr. Astor has given instructions. We will take the young master to school. You should rest at home, sir. With that, the driver took Cody's backpack from my hand. I realized James was serious. He was really not going to let me leave. I was once again in his grasp. But I had to get out. I had work. Chloe and I had started a studio together, specializing in custom gowns. I'd majored in design in college, but my family went bankrupt not long after I started. My parents committed suicide, and I had to work my way through school, which is how I met James. I faked my death before I could graduate, so I still don't have my degree. No diploma, pregnant, and with a face known to every powerful person in the city, I didn't dare show myself to look for a job. To make a living, I started doing design work online under a pseudonym. Later, Chloe saw my work and asked if I wanted to open a studio for formal wear. After a moment's hesitation, I immediately agreed. I guess I was lucky. The studio had just landed a big order, and I needed to get back to work. I managed to slip out of James's place again, but the second I stepped outside, my phone rang. Mark, go back. I gripped my phone tightly. No wonder my escape had been so easy. He could see my every move. I have to work. James let out a cold laugh, as if I'd said something ridiculous. Your work? Do I need to remind you what that is? What? Did you forget just because I'm not home? His words instantly took me back to a time when I was still with him. I had gone with him to Elysium, and Hayes and his crew were there. After just a couple of drinks, I grew tired of the environment and sat quietly off to the side. The door to the room opened, and a woman walked in. She was one of Hayes's flings. It seemed Hayes had dumped her, and she was there to try and get him back. Hayes shoved her to the ground like a piece of trash and then condescendingly poured a glass of red wine over her head. When I took you on, I told you it was just for fun. When I'm done, do I need to give you a reason? The woman was crying miserably, but she still clung to Hayes's pant leg. But I'm your assistant. You can't just abandon me. You need me. Hayes frowned, kicking at her with a look of disdain. You're a bullshit assistant. If we're talking about your real job, wasn't it just warming my bed? The room erupted in laughter. The woman, a complete wreck, finally left. But before she closed the door, she gave me a long, hard look. That one look made my skin crawl. I wanted to leave, and James immediately agreed and left with me. I was still sullen before bed that night, and James noticed and asked me what was wrong. Later, after he'd had his way with me, I finally broke down and told him through my tears. You picked me up from Elysium, so what's my job? When you don't need me anymore, will you just throw me away like trash? I was a sobbing mess. I don't know if it was from the throes of passion or my emotions. All I remember is that James was very gentle that night. Never. You're my treasure, the one I truly love. Even though neither of us ever mentioned those words again after we woke up, I heard them. On the other end of the phone, I was silent for a long time before turning around and going back to the villa. I had no choice. Later, I had to ask Chloe to bring me the things I needed for work. We chatted at the door for a bit. So this is your plan from now on? I didn't know how to answer. Don't you forget all the suffering he put you through. I forced a bitter smile. I remember, after getting my things, I went back inside. As I walked up the stairs, I found myself looking up at the third floor. I used to have a studio up there. After hesitating, I went up. I opened the door, and the room was just as I had left it. The easel was still there, The paints were neatly arranged on the floor, and the palette I had made a mess of was dried up but still lying right where I'd left it. Nothing had changed. I sniffled and got to work. I don't know how late I worked, but when I looked out the window, the sky was dark, and Cody still wasn't back. I started calling his kid-friendly smartwatch. "Hello?" James's voice came through the phone, and the knot in my chest instantly loosened. "Why aren't you guys back yet?" I quickly added, "Don't you dare do anything to Cody." My words immediately set him off. He ground out, "With that attitude, I just might." The call ended, but I was relieved. I was eating dinner downstairs when James and Cody returned. Cody ran into my arms. "Daddy, look at the cool toys Uncle James bought me." Cody's hands were full of toys, and James was carrying several more bags. "Did you thank your uncle?" Cody nodded. "Hurry and eat, then go check out your room. Your mommy got you a present too." Cody let out a yay and ran upstairs. James's face darkened. "You saw that woman? You already know, why are you asking?" James handed the toys to the housekeeper and sat down next to me. "Doesn't she know you've been fucked by me? She still wants you after that?" James's words infuriated me. He always knew how to make me feel worthless with just one sentence. I stormed off. That night, James came into the room. I turned off the light and rolled over, facing away from him. The covers were pulled back, and James slid into bed, bringing a wave of damp air with him. He reached out and turned me to face him. He didn't look at me, but his hands roamed downwards, starting fires. I struggled and squirmed, muffled sounds escaping my lips. James knew my body intimately. 3 years had been more than enough time for him to learn me. He ignited spark after spark until I was burning with a restless heat. He pressed down on me, and as we became one, I felt a strange discomfort. It had been too long. James panted, whispering in my ear, "Warm, wet." He thrusted hard, and a sound that was both pain and pleasure escaped my lips. Finally, through the haze, I heard him say, "Alive." I was exhausted. In the haze of sleep, besides the ache in my lower back, I felt a pair of large, warm hands pull me into an embrace. I thought I heard someone whisper, "What am I supposed to do with you?" When I woke up, James was already dressed and starting on his tie. Seeing I was awake, he walked over with the tie in hand. "You do it." Following the principle of when in Rome, I tied his tie for him. James looked down at it. "Years go by and your skills improve." I scratched my head. Couldn't help it. Even though I was a designer, I still had to wear a suit for formal occasions these last couple of years. Over time, I naturally got the hang of it. Looks like Chloe isn't all that great after all. I didn't understand why he suddenly brought up Chloe. Then he continued, "Why haven't you two gotten married? You had the guts to cheat on me. What's stopping you from getting married?" James stared at me intently. "She has a fear of commitment." "Ha! You really love her, don't you? How thoughtful." With that, James slammed the door, the sound echoing through the house. I knew what James meant. He was testing me. But what I said wasn't a lie. Chloe really did have a fear of commitment. Otherwise, she wouldn't have kept her boyfriend of 7 years waiting without getting married. Cody was still driven to school and back home by the driver. As for James, I didn't see him all day. And not just for one day. For a whole week, I didn't see him during the daytime. Except at night, when he would always slip into bed, smelling of the damp night air, and torment me. He would be gone before the sun came up. But every day, deliveries would arrive at the house, things James had ordered. I looked, and they were all staggeringly expensive. Clothes, watches, cars, you name it. He was acting like a John paying for services. The gown was finished. I contacted Chloe to come and pick it up. When she arrived, she looked completely drained. The dark circles under her eyes reached her chin, and her usual sparkle was gone. I handed her the packaged gown. "What's wrong?" At my words, Chloe looked up, her eyes instantly welling with tears. "He cheated on me," she sobbed, and I had never seen her so broken. She wasn't wearing any makeup, her clothes were wrinkled, and her face was tear-streaked and lifeless. Chloe's voice was hoarse as she cried, "I never thought he would cheat on me." The he she was talking about was her boyfriend of 7 years. They had been together since high school, from school uniforms to graduation. We all thought they would get married. I had asked Chloe before why she wasn't married yet. She said she was afraid of commitment. He knows I'm scared of marriage, so he doesn't pressure me with proposals. We're taking it slow. At first, I thought it was nice, but over time, it started to feel strange, though I couldn't put my finger on why. It wasn't until today that I realized he was using her fear as an excuse, dragging things out because he didn't want to get married but didn't want to break up either. Chloe was crying so hard she could barely stand. After putting the gown in her trunk, I drove her home. My phone kept ringing, but I was too busy to answer. Worried something might happen, I decided to stay with her. I sent a text to Cody, telling him to go to sleep. James didn't call again. I figured Cody would tell him where I was. Chloe and I went to a bar and got a private room. She grabbed a bottle and started chugging. I drank with her at first, but I couldn't keep up and just ended up trying to get her to slow down. Around 10 p.m., the door to the room opened. It was James. He looked at me and Chloe. Chloe was wearing a sexy dress. In her words, it was a wild night, and she was going to have a hot one-night stand. I was leaning in close to her, trying to stop her from drinking more. James's eyes instantly turned red. He yanked me away and dragged me out of the room. Chloe, we can't just leave Chloe. James didn't say a word, just strode toward the exit. You've got it all wrong. I was just keeping her company. Have someone take her home. James threw me into the car and slammed on the gas, peeling out. The speed was terrifying. Are you insane? You're trying to get us killed. I screamed, and James finally eased off the accelerator. She just broke up with her boyfriend. I was there for her. James slowly pulled the car over to the side of the road and stared at me, his eyes burning. I knew he wanted an explanation, but I hadn't done anything wrong. She came to pick something up this afternoon, and that's when I found out she broke up with him. She said she wanted to drink, and I was worried about her, so I came with her. James sneered. You two have a unique way of showing your love. Are you crazy? We're best friends. Best friends? The kind who have a baby together? I snapped and slapped him across the face. I had told him so many times that I was the one who gave birth to Cody. He called Chloe mommy simply because he didn't want to be made fun of by other kids. After the slap, James pressed his tongue against the inside of his cheek. I saw his Adam's apple bob, and his eyes narrowed dangerously. He started the car again, driving at a much more normal speed this time. As soon as we walked in the door, the cook saw us and waved me over. Just a moment, Mr. Shaw. I'll bring you your soup. She brought over a bowl of fish soup, talking as she walked. The master said you were drinking on an empty stomach and that your stomach would be upset, so he had me make this soup for you ahead of time. Please try it and see if it's the same as you remember. Drink it while it's hot. The cook was the same one from years ago. She knew I preferred lighter flavors. But as soon as the soup was placed in front of me, the smell hit me, and I gagged and ran for the bathroom. James froze for a second before running after me. The cook was terrified and quickly tried to explain, but I always remember his tastes. It shouldn't be like this. I waved my hand, letting her know it wasn't her fault. James was scared to death. His face was pale as he patted my back. Once I had recovered, I jabbed my elbow into his stomach and angrily pushed him out of the bathroom. Ever since I'd started sleeping with James again, I'd been terrified. If I could get pregnant once, I could get pregnant a second time. I couldn't take birth control pills, so I just had to be careful. I had secretly bought the pregnancy test earlier today. As expected, 2 lines. 2 tests, both with 2 lines. Seeing those familiar 2 lines again, the same feeling of horror washed over me. I was afraid of being discovered, of being ridiculed. Not even Cody knew that I was the one who gave birth to him. I had him call me daddy precisely to tell everyone that I was just a normal, ordinary father. A man. While I was still trying to figure out what to do, the bathroom door was unlocked from the outside with a key. When I saw James, my first instinct was to throw away the pregnancy tests. But before I could, he snatched them out of my hand. A long time passed, so long I thought my blood had frozen. You're pregnant? I didn't say anything. So you and Chloe really are just friends? I was so furious I raised my hand to slap him again. Was this really the time to be asking about my relationship with Chloe? Shouldn't he be asking why I had pregnancy tests, why there were 2 lines, why I was a monster? James grabbed my hand and gently kissed it. He lowered his head, pressing his forehead against mine. Can I touch your stomach? I hesitated for a moment but nodded. What I didn't expect was for James to kneel down, lift my shirt, and gently press a kiss to my belly. Then he laid his ear against my stomach, listening. It's too small. You can't hear anything, I said quietly. James stood up and hugged me. I'm sorry. Then go die. James laughed, and I could feel the vibration of his chest as I leaned against him. I can't die. I have to live so I can keep tormenting you. The next day, James took me to the hospital. I didn't want to go. Felt too strange. Let's just get a checkup, okay? I promise it'll be perfectly safe. Don't you want to know how it's doing? I don't. It was true. I didn't feel like I loved this child. In fact, I didn't love Cody before he was born either. Being pregnant, these babies, they made me feel like a monster. James seemed to understand what was upsetting me. We'll just get a checkup. If you don't want to keep it, then we won't. After a lot of hesitation, I went to the hospital with him. The checkup showed that everything was fine. This baby was much healthier than Cody had been. Holding the results, my eyes started to well up. What's wrong? It's okay, don't be scared. James held me, patting my back gently, as if comforting a small child. Cody's condition was so bad back then. It was true. When I first ran away, I had no money and depended entirely on Chloe. But Chloe's resources were limited at the time. I was pregnant and miserable, and there were several times I almost lost Cody, which is why he was born premature. James was silent for a long time. It'll be okay. You'll never have to suffer again. When we got home, I shut myself in my room. In the evening, I thought I heard Chloe's voice. I opened the door, and sure enough, there she was. She was back to her usual vibrant self, showing no signs of a breakup. Chloe walked up to me and did a twirl. I'm still me. Nobody can knock me down. The client was very happy, by the way. The final payment came in. I sent you your half. I nodded and asked her why she was here. Chloe pointed at James. Your man had to beg me to come over. I shook my head. Chloe then launched into a tirade. Men are all worthless pieces of trash. Except for you, of course. They're all goddamn animals. She finished with a fierce glare at James. After chatting for a while, I realized James had asked Chloe to come over just to talk to me and keep me company. It seems like I'm always the one hurting you. I may not like that woman, but she helped you so much, and she makes you happy. Chloe had gone home, and James was sitting on the sofa, his head bowed as he spoke. The warm living room light cast a glow on him. He was such a big guy, but he looked like a sad puppy. I don't want to have it. James's eyes immediately turned red. I'll make an appointment with a doctor for the procedure. He picked up his phone and started to walk toward the study. I grabbed his wrist. Aren't you going to try and change my mind? James shook his head. I respect your decision. Do you love me? James looked at me, then took my hand and placed it over his heart. I could feel his heartbeat under his shirt, steady, strong, and warm. Back then, I thought you were really dead. I rushed to the hospital, but they wouldn't let me see your body. They just handed me an urn. I was so angry I wanted to smash it in their faces. But I couldn't. That was you. The only part of you I could hold. James's eyes were red, his voice thick with emotion. I couldn't hit them because I had to hold your ashes. I didn't dare let go for a second. But I couldn't believe you were really gone. I tore up the death certificate. Then I picked up every piece and taped it back together. James pulled me into his arms. That night I saw you holding Cody. I really wanted to kill you. You must have hated me so much to curse yourself with death just to get away from me. I knew you were unhappy, but it didn't matter as long as you were still alive. His voice was clear in my ear, but the words he spoke made me dizzy, hard to comprehend. But through his words, I heard the answer. In this world, in this life and the next, for all eternity, James will love you. Even if you hate James, James will still love you. I sniffled and hugged him back. James's body tensed. I don't hate you. I faked my death, I ran, because I didn't want you to think I was a monster. Where on earth does a man get pregnant? Back then, I wished I really was dead. Just as I was about to cry, I heard a sharp wail. Daddy, I don't want you to die. Wah! Cody was standing behind me. I don't know how much he'd heard. Daddy's not a monster. Daddy is Daddy, sniffle. I don't know if Cody understood, but his words comforted me. James scooped him up. Cody's right. Daddy is just Daddy. That night, Cody slept between James and me. I had decided to keep the baby. The next morning, I was getting ready to go for a more detailed checkup when I opened the bedroom door and heard Cody calling James Big Daddy. Why does he get to be Big Daddy? James shot me a smug look, and Cody giggled at me. Suddenly, I wasn't angry anymore. With me pregnant again, James started planning our wedding. It's not even legal. Why bother? James was looking through a stack of venue photos from a wedding planner, dissatisfied with all of them. Hearing my words, his head snapped up, and he looked at me with a wounded expression. Are you really not going to let me be seen in public with you, my great designer? Cody puffed out his cheeks and mimicked him perfectly. Are you really not going to let Big Daddy be seen in public? Daddy? I took a sharp bite of my apple. Ever since that day, the two of them had become inseparable, and Cody was starting to look more and more like James. I told James that I was the designer known as Whisper. He said he already knew, and that the gown I had just made was one he had commissioned for his grandmother. James had taken me back to his family home. Mr. Astor, Sr. was old now, and James held all the power. The entire family had to listen to him. When Mr. Astor, Sr. saw me, he said, "Long time no see, Mr. Shaw. You're as handsome as ever." I pressed my lips together and said nothing. Cody, say hello to Grandpa. Cody ran out from behind James, not at all shy, and sweetly called out, "Grandpa." Before dinner, James and his grandfather went into the study and talked for over half an hour. After that, Mr. Astor, Sr. seemed to tacitly accept my presence and was especially affectionate with Cody. I found out later that James had told his grandfather everything and had also threatened him. Don't try to get rid of him again. If he leaves, I'll destroy this family. You have a grandson now, and you might have more in the future. Just enjoy your retirement. I was shocked at first, but then I was happy. He had gotten my revenge for me. Later, on the day the baby was born, I found out something else. The day I had my C-section, James had surgery too, a vasectomy. When the baby was born, he didn't even look at it. He ran straight to my side and took my hand. "You worked so hard, Mark. I love you." I squeezed his hand and saw that Cody's eyes were red too. "I love you too. I love you both."